everyone. This is Ingrid. I welcome you to my monthly telesummit. Some of you have been here before, and you know that each month we're trying to host an hour-long interview with people that have done some amazing things. People like you and me that are going to lead ordinary lives, but do some extraordinary things and overcome some incredible obstacles and challenges. And as a result, they really intrigue and inspire and motivate you. So I'm really happy to have this month's guest. Her name is Sherry Wynn, and I'm going to just give you a quick overview because we're going to be talking a little bit about who she is and what she's done and all of that. So I can tell you that she is a two-time Olympian, which we will talk about. She's a class valedictorian. She was a women's basketball coach and is now a motivational speaker, writer, and success coach, and has written a book, which we will also talk about. And as I put in my announcement for this telesummit, it all sounds really great, what she's done. But along the way to all these successes, there are some major challenges and setbacks that almost permanently stopped her dead in her tracks. But rather than let those things get in her way, Sherry learned some really valuable lessons from those experiences and came up with a win-win formula, which is the title of today's telesummit. And she will share that with us and give us some tips on how to deal with life's tumultuous journey. And we all know that that's certainly the case. So I'm very happy to welcome Sherry, and this is her beautiful picture right here. And we also have a picture of us in the upper left-hand corner. I would like to do a few logistics with you, and that's basically to let you know that you have the option of putting in the chat room any questions, comments, suggestions, whatever you want to say. We will leave time at the end of the telesummit to address your questions. I may try to get to them as they are posted as well, but it may be that we get to the end before we can address those. But by all means, feel free to put those in the chat room. So without further ado, I would like to introduce to you Sherry. Hello, Sherry.
Hi.
How are you?
Awesome.
Good. Oh, that's great. I love it when people say that.
It's a good day.
It is. It is indeed. Well, I hear it's so Sherry lives in Billings, Montana, and I guess it's been pretty cold there, right, Sherry?
We had a few days that were below zero. It's been, the amazing thing about Billings and this area that zero still is pretty warm. Like it's minus 30. So it's all good.
Yeah, that's good. Well, I lived in Minnesota for 2 years, and I remember someone once saying to me, when it gets above zero, it's going to feel like a heat wave. So I totally understand what you're saying.
Yeah. Snow is beautiful. It really is. It still allows you the opportunity to be outside. You get to cross-country ski or snowshoe or downhill ski. There's plenty of opportunities.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
The attitude.
Well, I would love for you to give us a brief overview of your background. As you heard, I didn't really delve into a complete introduction because I really wanted you to do that. So if you could tell us a little bit about where you were born, where you grew up, where you went to school, how you got interested in sports, all those little details. That would be great.
I was born in a small town in West Texas. Actually, the town was called Almaray. It wasn't even big enough to have a hospital. We had to drive 37 miles to the nearest hospital. So I was raised as kind of a rancher farmer kid early, and then my dad became superintendent of a school, and I became kind of a gym rat because my mom was a coach, my dad was a rat early on. And then I played about every sport there was. At least I tried it at least once. that was one of my talents, was to be an athlete. And at an early age of 7, I saw the moment.
Sherry, I think we're losing you a little with the sound. So I'm going to see if I can make some adjustments here.
Okay. Well, I'm going to keep talking. You tell me if we're losing you.
Yeah, keep talking. Keep talking. We're just going to we're going to try to fix it on this end.
Okay. I was a two-time. I ended up being a two-time Olympian, and that was just from determination, the spirit, the vision of having that dream in my head from age 7. So whatever obstacle got in my path didn't stop me, because I actually believed that I was always going to be an Olympian. I had plenty of obstacles. I think everybody else does, but it's really not about the obstacles, about what you believe about the obstacle, how you get through it.
Absolutely.
Been,
that's for sure.
I've been a basketball coach for 23 years, and I was a two-time All-American in college, as an academic All-American, valedictorian of the University of Charleston, and also the National Coach of the Year in 1993. There were successes there, and I like to talk about successes, but behind every success, there's a lot of obstacles. Those are really what make a people. I make a person, I believe, the obstacle behind us.
Absolutely. Yeah, you actually had a pretty incredible record as a basketball coach. And as we go through the telesummit today, maybe you can tell us about some of those things, because I know that you got your team to a national championship. You've had all kinds of victories. And you were really credited, too, of instilling in your teams passion, intelligence, and intensity, as they say. And I think those are really wonderful ingredients to instill in people. And you've also been voted Conference Coach of the Year 5 times. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that before we move on?
I think the important thing to hear is really not about what I achieved or what kind of recognition got to me, but the fact that what I believe, the importance of teaching the young women that I coached about how they could succeed. I wanted to see them grow. I wanted to see them become better than they could even imagine. So my goal as a coach was to win games, but behind that, I knew that winning wasn't necessarily about the scoreboard, but it was about young women,
right,
about themselves. What I knew about young women was this: so they were very insecure, and they beat themselves up a lot. So we spent
right
time helping them feel better about who they were. I think that's what the successes on the court came from. It wasn't really about teaching basketball skills as much as it was about teaching life skills.
Yeah, absolutely. We just came off of the Olympics. How do you start to decide to go after competing in the Olympics? And then for what sport? How do you make those dreams a reality? And we certainly saw some of these athletes that went through incredible training and discipline and sacrifices in order to get where they were. So you mentioned a little bit that this was a dream that you had, and how did that develop over time? And can you tell us a little bit about the training that it took to do that? And also, it was, by the way, for team handball, which maybe you can talk a little bit about for those of us who don't understand well exactly what that is.
The first thing is you have to have a dream. That's the first thing, and then whatever happens, you never stop dreaming. And that's where I came from. I had this dream at age 7 that I was going to be an Olympian. And in reality, I probably started training at age 7, because I was doing backs and push-ups and all those kind of things. I would watch Jack LaLanne on TV, and I'd imitate Jack LaLanne. I mean, for those of us.
Okay. I remember him.
If they're older, we know who he is. And that's what I really started. I had this vision of who I wanted to be. Then I literally from that age on, that's what I knew how. So that when I got to high school, I was actually training before the school started. So I went in an hour before school started to practice on my own. And then after our basketball practice was over, I spent another hour in the gym. So I was doing
Wow.
2 hours a day above and beyond what everybody else was doing on the team. And that was really, it was just because it was so fixated in my mind. This is who I was. This is what I was.
Yeah.
When I started college basketball, I wasn't the caliber of player that I thought I was. In my first season, I sat the bench and I didn't even get to play. That was really hard on me.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
great lesson. There you go. It was really hard on me at the time. That was a point I almost stopped dreaming. But there was just the dream was so big inside of me that I couldn't stop. And this is what happens when you have something that you believe in. It becomes so big inside you that if
Yes.
you with a dream, you're miserable. And the next season, I transferred schools, and I was struggling a lot at this point in my life. There was many reasons I was struggling, but I was depressed. I was drinking a lot. So even though the dream was alive, I was doing a lot of things that were sabotaging my efforts. And then
Mm.
what happened? The huge, well, I used to say it was my coach's fault and teammates' fault and those kind of things, which I now know is not true. It was really my fault. I created a lot of the problems that were on that team from who I was then, and it came down to a point where I just quit, and I'd never quit anything before, and I quit. After I quit, I was really in deep depression. Well, I think for 2 weeks straight, I drank until I just passed out. So when
Wow.
moment that I woke up, I would just start drinking again until I passed out again. About 2 weeks straight, I did that.
That must have been a very painful
Oh,
time.
it was. It was a very painful time. I felt abandoned by my family, abandoned by my teammates, my coach, abandoned by God, abandoned by myself. Um, and so what happened is I really kind of just hit the bottom. There was this place that I didn't know what I was going to do, but the question I asked myself is, A, I could stay where I was at, and now I was miserable. B, I could kill myself, which was a huge consideration at that point. Or three, the third thing was is that I could change. Luckily for me, I elected to change. About that time,
Yeah. Lucky for all of us.
and about that time, some people introduced me to the sport of team handball, which is like soccer using the hands or water polo on land. Not very many people know about it. In fact, I didn't know what it was
Mhm.
until.
So I have a picture here to show everyone what that looks like a
Right.
little bit.
It's a crazy sport. It's 7-on-7, so there's one goalie and 6 court players. And then the ball looks like a miniature soccer ball, and the goal looks like a miniature soccer goal. But instead of kicking the ball, you throw it into the goal. And the cool thing,
Okay.
or I don't know, at that time I thought it was pretty cool, is you get to hit people. And so I was kind of angry at that time in my life.
Yeah. So that went very well with where you were at that time.
So it's a fast-paced game though. It's not like soccer where there's only 1 or 2 goals scored per game. In handball, there's about 28 to 35 goals scored per game. So it's a little bit
Wow.
faster game. So I was lucky enough to play on the club team at Texas A&M University. They asked if I wanted to go to the national tournament, and I said yes. At the national tournament, the national team coach asked me if I wanted to join the national team, which is the training team for the 84 Olympic game. And I said yes. That's kind of how it all transpired. So one of the big lessons I learned from that was we can't stop believing in our dream. And sometimes when a door shuts, it's not a door shutting. It's just getting our opportunity somewhere else. If I would have been playing basketball,
Yeah.
I probably would have never been an Olympian. But because that door shut, I
Hmm.
actually saw another path, and that path led me to what I really wanted.
So when you got into women's handball, did that rekindle the Olympic dream in you to do that?
Absolutely. That was, when I was on the Olympic team, when I was on the training team, the national training team, it was our goal to be in the '84 Olympic Games. And at that time,
Yeah.
the United States was hosting. So the host country, you don't have to qualify. And so for 3 years, from 1981 to 1984, we trained twice a day, and trained twice a day year round. Um, so at the time, I was actually living in a house with 13 women, and every single room was
Wow.
bedrooms. Every single room was a bedroom. So the living room was. Some of the people had to keep their dressers in the garage because there wasn't enough room, and we all lived in that one.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy because that was before the Olympics were subsidized, so we were still all amateurs. And the biggest problem was, have you ever tried to share showers so that 13 women had to take a shower and there still had to be hot water left?
Oh my God, yeah.
So literally, you turn the
Must have
shower.
been very challenging.
Yeah, we turn the shower on and just get wet, turn it off, shampoo and soap up, and then turn it on, and
Oh, wow.
that was all you got for showers. It was a really interesting time. Yeah,
So how would you characterize that time?
I loved it. I absolutely adored every second.
Mm.
That was with my teammates. It was even though it was really hard, and we all had minimum wage jobs for a while. I was making $3.35 an hour working at Hallmark Card Store, and so yeah, it wasn't. That was not my dream job, trust me. And there's some people that worked at the station, pizzeria, whatever job we could get so that we could pay our bills.
Yeah.
Until
Well, it sounds like you had a great motivation to do that.
it was fun. I mean, even though it was really hard, it was so fun. The people that my teammates in '84 were amazing, amazing women. They all had dreams. They all wanted to do this. They loved each other. We laughed a lot. They were one of the reasons that time period in my life because
Yeah, it sounds like it really was a big resurrection for you. And I think sometimes in a group situation like that, you feed off the energy of one another. And it sounds like there was tremendous energy to make this happen and make each of your dreams come true.
it was. Most of the women were older than I was. They had already tried. They were going to go to the '80 Olympics, and the '80 Olympics were boycotted. So some of them had already been training for 3 years or 4 years before I got there.
Right.
They had an understanding of perseverance. They had wisdom beyond what I had. And really, they took care of me. They took care of my insecurities and my doubts. They helped me get through tough times. They listened to me and my insecurities, my victimhood. I was a great victim at that time in my life. They were the family. They were my family. I can't say enough about who they were and all the things they did for me in my life.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great during those kinds of difficult times to have a support group. And I feel that one can rise to a challenge much better if one has that kind of support network. And it sounds like you were feeling pretty alone during the basketball time, and then that totally changed during the when you made the transition to the handball team.
Well, those teammates were wonderful. Uh, they just they were a little bit more accepting of who I was and what I was going through. I was still struggling. I mean, I can remember being at the brink of depression many times. That I didn't feel like I was good enough. That I didn't feel like I deserved abundance or deserved love or any of those things. And those people, instead of uh, pushing me off or getting tired of my incessant talk about how horrible life was, they took me and hugged me when I needed it, and shot, they discussed books they had read, and they shared books that they had read with me. So they started me on the pathway of
And the pathway of healing.
pathway.
Because it sounds, when we were talking about this, you were telling me that you were still having those bouts of depression, that you were still battling with alcoholism. And despite all of that, you achieved incredible things. And so I'm hearing you saying that a lot of it is because of the support and camaraderie of the team, but you must have also had something in you that kept you going and kept you moving forward and wanting you to go after that dream that you have.
Well, I think that there was a belief inside me that even how bad I saw the world, and I saw it as, I wasn't the person that saw the glass as half empty. I knew it was going to be empty. So
Oh,
say it's going to be half full or half empty. I thought the question was stupid, because I thought, well, it's going to be, because somebody's going to drink it, it's going to get spilled, or it's going to evaporate. So the question was,
yeah.
I couldn't see anything, good in life, and that this the teammates started me. I was a really slow learner, so it took me many years to arrive at a different philosophy of living, and it was not the '84 teammates helped me, but definitely it was probably in my 30s before I started seeing life differently, and believing that life was great and that every day was a joy to wake up. It took me a long time to get there. It wasn't a year or 2 years. Like I said, I'm a little stubborn, so I have to have bigger pushes.
Well, yeah, and it's a lifelong journey that we're all on, isn't it? So I wanted to show a few pictures, and maybe you can comment on these of this time when you were with this team handball.
Okay, well, that's a dive shot. We're playing the Germans. So
Okay.
one of the things you do is there's a semicircle that you can't get inside that circle unless you release the ball before you touch the floor. So you jump up in the air, hold the ball as long as you can, wait for the goalie to move so you can see the goalie kind of in that picture, and then you try to beat the goalie with your shot, and then you land rather roughly on your body. So yeah,
Wow.
that's a dive shot.
Yeah, it looks pretty challenging.
It was.
And this one?
Well, that's a circle shot, so I was breaking through, and that looks like we're playing the Congo. So this was a game, I believe, in the World Championships against the Congo, which we won that game. Again, I'm just attacking the goal, and you can see that close to me, they could hit me, but I was.
And are you the girl with the ball here?
That is me. Yeah. Yeah. About 30 pounds.
So what happened? Tell me what happened to you when you were on the court. So you were feeling some of these things when you were off court, maybe at the home or in your off court life. But what happens to you when you're on the court like this?
I think we compartmentalize. I think we're great at doing that. We separate life.
Yep, we sure are.
Into these different compartments somehow. And at one place we're okay, and another place we're totally capable of functioning. And when I was on the court, that's where everything was okay for me. That was my sanctuary. My sanctuary had always been in training. My sanctuary was always when I was sweating and practicing, because I knew I was good. And there was one place I had, even though there was doubts, there was still that place that I knew when I was playing, I could forget everything else and I could just be. So it was the place that
Yeah. It's something that many of us strive for, of being present. And isn't this really what being present is? That you are totally in the moment, you are totally focused on what you're doing at that time.
Yeah,
and you forget everything else.
Absolutely, and the key is that we can learn that we can do that all the time. It doesn't have to be one place. We can simply change our mind to present, be aware of who we are, and be aware of the greatness that we are. And we are that all the time. We don't have to go do something to be that. We are great every moment of the day. is that we've been taught differently. We've been taught that we're not.
Absolutely. Okay, let me move on to this other picture. This is your team in 1988. Is that correct? 1988. It says it right in the back there.
That was the 1988 teammates. So this is a group of women who were a little bit different. They were younger. There are a few holdovers from the '84 team. Predominantly, these were all new players. So this was a different group of people for me. One of the things is that
so the dynamic was very different.
It was very different. We were really manipulated by our coach at that time because he used fear and intimidation to rule us, and we all succumbed to that. And we never had a group where we could stand up together and be together. In '84, our people would stand up together as a unit, and we would form a group against the coach and say, no, we're not going to do that. But this group was so fearful of losing their position that we didn't have that strength as a unit. So consequently, we never really performed the same courage and tenacity that they
did. Yeah. So were you living in a home together with this team as well? Or was that
on the Olympic Training Center? So we were living at the Olympic Training Center at Colorado Springs at the time. So we were living together, not quite the same because we had different rooms. We had separate rooms. We didn't have to all be in a house together. I mean, there was still a close-knit togetherness to that, but we just never had the same. We just never had that same sort of commitment to one another. We had a commitment to winning, not a commitment to one another.
So I'm just curious, Sherry, are you friends with any of these teammates from either '84 or '88? Have you maintained contact?
84 teams. In fact, we're going to have our 30th reunion. We've had a reunion about every 4 years since '84.
Oh wow, that's wonderful.
Yeah, the '88 group, we don't have any. We don't have any connections. We don't have any reunions. We don't have. I'm connected to.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah, it is really interesting. I'm connected to a few of them because they are holdovers from '84. But no, I mean we were just all in a place in our lives at that time that we were strong enough to. I don't fault them for that. It's just where we were.
Yeah, sure. Well, how wonderful that you still have that contact with that initial team, because it sounds like they were really an invaluable resource to you in a very difficult point in your life. And one of the messages I think out of something like that is that sometimes you can't do it alone. Oftentimes you can't do it alone, and people fall into your lives that help you to move on and pick up the pieces.
We always have what I call angels. We always have people. We always have angels that are there, giving us the opportunity to learn. Sometimes we're just not ready for the lesson. So.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I've always.
That's very true.
Wonderful people, loving, kind people. Sometimes I didn't hear them because I wasn't ready for what they had to offer. But
well, and the interesting thing is, it goes back to what you said earlier about a door being closed and a window opening. Sometimes you've got to be there to recognize that that's happening.
Absolutely.
And it sounds like you really were very present and aware of that. So let me show one more picture of the Olympics before we move on. This is a really wonderful picture. Do you want to tell us about that?
Edwin Moses at the time was one of the best hurdlers ever. He had won more gold medals than any other hurdler. He was well known. He had been in more Olympics than most people at that time. You remember when you were amateur, people didn't hold over and go to Olympic after Olympics because most of them were having to have a full-time job and also train. Now that's no longer true. Most Olympians are subsidized and are making good money if they're good. But yeah, he was there. It was great to talk to him. An amazing athlete. And then the other person on the other side is one of my teammates, Sam Jones. So she's one of our amazing players, one of our stars on our team handball team. This is the opening ceremony outfits that we had in 1984.
Wow. That's pretty awesome. I bet you met some pretty inspirational people at that time.
It was great because you're all Olympians, and so it didn't matter who it was. They were always willing to talk to you and to share their stories and take it with you. It was really amazing with the people at that time. The only sadness that I have in my heart is that I didn't keep contact with some of the people because they were
Yeah,
incredible individuals.
yeah. Well, in this day and age, you can Google just about anybody or anything. So it may be something that you can pursue if you choose to do that.
That's true. That's true. It's a good point. Thank you for sharing that.
Okay. All right. So let's move on now to your basketball time. And you told me about your first job as a basketball coach. You came across a very difficult situation with your head coach.
Actually, that was
Um,
handball and not basketball. That was
oh, it was. Oh, excuse me. I thought it was basketball. Okay,
I was team handball
I stand corrected.
in the '88 Olympic Games. My handball coach sexually harassed me, which is when people don't understand sexual harassment, it's about power. So almost any
Yeah.
other time, had he done something to me, I would have said, many things at the time because I cursed a lot more then. But then I didn't, and the reason I didn't is because I wanted to play in the Olympic Games. It was the power, behind that. Very, very challenging time because the Olympic Games was supposed to be,
Yeah. Yeah.
this mystical and magical moment. Instead, it was horrific for me. What happened was I'd already been named the assistant national team coach after the Olympic Games, and I was going to be working with him. Once I reported that he had sexually harassed me, I was actually fired from my position.
Wow.
Yeah, it was interesting. They said they fired me because of misinformation, but
So what do you think gave you the courage to report him and to take action on it? Because especially in that time, I think a lot of women were intimidated into not saying anything.
it's interesting, and I wish I could remember the book that I was reading, but I was always reading books, and it was part of what I needed to do to get healthy. And the book that I was
Yeah.
reading at that time was talking about how important it was to value yourself and to not let anybody else take your power away from you. And so really the book was impetus behind valuing myself and not allowing somebody else to run over me or to devalue who I was, to tell me I wasn't worthy. So I felt very strongly that what he was doing was wrong. I knew he had done to other young women. The other young women on my team who had gone to the federation earlier, so about, I don't know, maybe 8 months prior to that, had all been cut from the team. So it was also very challenging for
Oh,
me knowing that if I said something, it was probably a certainty, had I said it at the Olympics, that I would have been cut from the team and not allowed to play then.
yes. So did you actually wait till after the Olympics to report him?
I actually told my teammates during the Olympics, and because of the fear and
Mm-hmm.
intimidation that was there, their response was, you can't say anything. Don't say anything. It'll ruin our Olympics. You have to keep quiet. So they were a lot more concerned about the opportunity to win a medal, the opportunity to play well, and they
Sure.
didn't show a lot of passion toward me. But I understand that, in the intimidation that we were under, that fear,
Yes.
word, and how he continually abused us emotionally. I can understand their point. At the time, I couldn't. I mean, at the time, I was devastated. But I certainly understand.
I can imagine. It's a very difficult thing.
Yes, it was. It took me a long time to really forgive him, to forgive the United States Team Handball Federation, the president and vice president, and all the people they were involved in that to forgive them. It took me a long time to forgive myself, my teammates, but I really believe that harboring all that anger just took an incredible.
Well, and that brings up a really important issue about forgiveness of any kind. And I know in talking to you that really has been a huge presence in your life, that issue of forgiveness, which is so important. You hear it time and time again that unless you let that go, you can't really heal, you can't really move forward.
Forgiveness.
And you can't, right.
Right. We think forgiveness is about the other person, but it's not. It's just about us, about letting go, and we don't forgive for many reasons. And for me, it was like if I let this go, where's the justice going to be? And so somehow I believe irrationally that if I let it go, that there would be no justice served. So somehow holding on to that all that happened was my assurance justice was going to be done to my coach and various other people. That was one of the reasons I struggled with forgiveness. We also don't forgive. I think if we forgive that we're not going to learn the lesson, that's another reason we don't forgive. So many silly, rational things we have in our head about forgiveness. And forgiveness is recognizing that we all deserve to be loved. It's recognizing our own love, that we came here to be loved. And
Unconditionally. Yeah.
And that means everybody. And it also is meaning that we all have lessons to learn. And so whatever lessons that my coach had to learn, I was learning my lessons, all a part of what we need to do, how we need to go.
Well, it sounds like there were lessons in it for everybody. And actually, do you know whatever happened to that coach?
I do. And and it's funny because I now I know what happened to him, and I don't feel like you think that when you feel like when justice is served that you're going to feel good, and that's really not the case. The goodness comes when you let go of things. That's when the goodness comes. But he
Yeah.
was
Yep.
actually filed a lawsuit against him and the federation after they fired me. They told him that he could not return to the United States. He's from Hungary, but that was what eventually happened to him was that his wife divorced him. His kids would no longer talk to him. He became homeless on the streets.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, and I think that I don't feel good about that. I feel that he.
So, yeah, that's amazing. Justice was served in a way, and here you are really not feeling good about
I
that.
think that everybody is. We are here to grow and to evolve. The lessons that allow us to do that. Now, sometimes we don't learn them. So my sadness is that if he had an opportunity to really
Yes.
change and evolve to a higher state of enlightenment, he failed to do that. So there's a sadness in me rather than feeling justice. Now,
Yeah.
like 20 years ago, I'd have been like, yeah, he got, I would have been so cool.
Yeah. So at a young age, you learned a lot of really tough lessons already, and important lessons.
I did.
So let's move on a little bit. This is you at a very high point in your life. Can you tell us a little bit about that and the great things that you achieved? So you overcame this hurdle that you had this really difficult experience to get over. And maybe you can tell us what happened next and how you came about. This is your job as the head basketball coach at Northern Montana College, correct?
Right. Well, I was really lucky. I, I've always had dreams, and so that's one of the greatest things about I think living is having a dream and then believing that you can have it. So it's not just a dream that goes out there and then you go, oh, I'm not good enough, or I'm not. I've always been able to live the dream. So I dreamed that I should be a national championship coach, and it happened. I was coaching the Northern Montana Skylights at the time. What, 35? I think 35 wins and 3 losses that year, and it was an amazing moment to win the game because we were behind to win it. No, we were ahead. I'm sorry, we were ahead, and they came from behind and almost won the game. We were able to beat this team. Second time within about 2-week period, so we had to be back to the national championship, and it was just a marvelous time. The young women I had on my team were amazing young women. They were so full of courage and determination. You know, it was a highlight of one of the highlights of my career. Absolutely.
And I'm going to correct you a little bit. You said that your dream happened, but you know what, Sherry? You made it happen. That's why it happened.
I agree.
Right?
Don't just happen on their own. It's because we
Absolutely
have a vision, and then we do many things to create that. One of them is having a vision, not allowing anything to distract us. You know, working toward it. There's many things that go into it. I mean, it's the willingness to go the extra mile. It's the identification of the two most powerful words in the universe, which is I am. I am a national championship coach. I am worthy. I am wonderful. And it's also negotiating, or not negotiating necessarily, but getting beyond, navigating beyond our failures. There's all kinds of things to create a dream. And the first part is having a vision, but the second, all the other stuff is that's the part that some people forget to do. They want a dream, but then they don't want to do the work behind the dream.
They don't want to make it happen. They don't want to do the work to make it happen. So tell me a little bit about that. How do you think what advice do you have for us to have a dream and to make it happen? What do you think you did? Because here you were an Olympian, here you won all these national champions as the head basketball coach, and clearly your coaching brought together great results too. So what is it that you think was the formula for this?
First of all, I think it's my willingness to continue to grow. I believe that we should always be. And I'm going to coin this phrase from a guy named Kevin Eastman, assistant basketball coach for the LA Clippers, and he said we have to be learn it all. And I truly believe that's what it is my willingness to learn, grow, and to never stop growing. That's reading, talking to other people, hearing what they have to say, asking them questions. How did they get here? What did they learn? It is journaling, meditating, all those things. Really is to continue to evolve and not stopping where you're at and saying that's enough. There's always another layer to fill off of us. There's always another place we can grow. And I'm always amazed at how much there is beyond me, how much further I have to go, and yet at the same time feeling good about where I'm at.
It reminds me, what you're saying reminds me, and I don't remember the exact saying, but years and years ago, there was a comparison of life as like an onion. You peel off one layer at a time, and sometimes you weep.
Yes.
And what you're saying reminds me of that.
Absolutely. Sometimes, you know, I mean, just to say today that I feel joyful every day I do, doesn't mean there are not days of frustrating or trying the other days. I just now know who I am and the belief that I am where I came from, and the source I came from is love, and that I am love. Feeling that every day makes me feel joyful. So even in a moment where I'm not where I want to be, if I'm still on a path, I believe that path is going to happen. It's going to happen through happiness and joy, those kind of things, rather than having to struggle, feel anxious and worried and feeling out.
Well, and you seem to have had positive attitude through all of these trials and tribulations. And then, you had, excuse me, you had another really long-term challenge with chronic pain that you had for a really long time. And despite that chronic pain, you accomplished these great things. You really made some of your dreams happen. And so how did you do that? How did you meet with that challenge? And
that was definitely my biggest,
go ahead.
That was definitely my biggest challenge of all my life. I mean, certainly being an Olympian was a challenge. Reaching a national championship, which was a challenge. But when I was diagnosed with chronic pain at age 33, that was the biggest challenge of my entire life. I loved to move. I still love to move. At that time I was 33, I still lifting weights. I was running, biking, hiking, rock climbing, everything. And then when the pain hit, I literally couldn't sit or stand or walk. I mean, I could, but with such an intense pain, like I was living it from a line from 1 to 10, with 10 being the highest level of intensity. I was living at 8, 9, or 10 daily. So I was just trying.
Wow. And did that happen right away? I mean, like from one day to the next?
The pain started, it was one day to the next, and then the pain just kept increasing. And then I thought, well, I'll go to the doctor and get a couple pills or have surgery and everything. Okay, well, I went to 17 different medical professionals in a 2-year period, and nobody had an answer for me. And things like pushing a grocery cart through a grocery store was really hard. I couldn't go to a movie theater to watch a movie because I couldn't sit that long. The only place that I got any kind of relief was laying down, so all I wanted to do was lay down. And the last doctor I saw, what he told me was I was going to have to just go to pain management clinic. I just did not have to manage the pain. I said, you don't get it. I don't want to learn how to manage it. So that started a process of searching out alternative medicines, going from one place to another to find answers. And I just simply refused to listen if somebody told me that I wasn't going to be healthy. I knew what I wanted. It took me a long time. It was,
yeah, this probably took you the longest of all these great achievements that you made, but you made it happen. You dreamt of overcoming the pain and getting to a healthier place, and you made it happen. It just took a little longer.
It took a long time. It took about 5 years to get to a place where I could.
Wow, that's a long time to be in pain.
That was all of it. That was just a place that I could function. So that was a place that I could
go
to the grocery store and walk to the grocery store or take a walk. That was a place to function. It wasn't a place for free. It was just a place to function. It was probably another 5 years after that before I would say pretty much pain-free, but still having to go to the integrative manual therapist that I was seeing about every 3 to 4 months. I did that. I still do that occasionally. I go back into pain spirit. I have spent years working on emotions, and I've discovered I'm a lot healthier now that I've released those negative things that was keeping inside me.
Well, yeah, and so that's a great lead into the next question about emotions, because I do a lot of work with emotional intelligence, as you know, and so this is one of the big messages that these emotions are there for a reason, and when you try to suppress them, they fester in your body until they come out in not such great ways. And so it's really important to deal with them. And one of the things that you told me is that for a really long time, and by the way, this is very understandable with all that was happening to you, that you were totally suppressing them.
Absolutely. I made decisions. I can remember making a decision to not feel. I thought it was a great thing. I just don't feel anything. My song was "I'm a rock, I'm an island."
Oh yes, I remember that song. Isn't that Simon and Garfunkel?
Yeah. Island never cries. Island never never cries. That's what I thought I was. And
Right.
so I stuffed my emotions down. I never talked about them. I didn't let people see me cry. And then, boom, chronic pain. And that was due. I really believe that was all due to not allowing myself to feel, not sharing, not talking about things.
Mm-hmm.
Because we can allow ourselves to feel, and it's okay. And if we allow ourselves to feel and let the emotions pass through us, we're much better off than holding on to them and stuffing them down inside ourselves. So I think that many people have pain that they can get rid of by simply working to release things that they've trapped and letting go things that they think they need to hold on to.
Well, and the interesting thing about emotions, too, is that they do carry messages. And sometimes we're not ready, again, as you've expressed, to hear those messages.
Right.
And not have to deal with them. Because there's too many other things that you're having to deal with. But your chronic pain, as you said, is a clear indication that at some point it's going to catch up with you.
When I went to see all the Western medical doctors, I'm not saying they're not valuable, but when you talk to them about chronic pain, they're lost. They pain pills. They're not sure what to do. And that was really kind of my nudge from the universe to learning and growing, and what got me into books, talking to therapists, asking questions about emotions, which I wouldn't listen to. I was down still many years to get to the point that
Yes, you still weren't ready.
I wasn't ready to listen about emotions. They would start talking about emotions.
Yeah.
And it was
Sure.
funny because once I agreed to handle the emotions, it wasn't a big deal. I mean, it was the fear.
Yeah.
All this construed stuff in my head. It wasn't real, and that's what we do to ourselves. We create things.
So what do you think was the point at which you decided to let go and let those emotions flow and give yourself permission to deal with them?
I went to see my integrative manual therapist, and their therapist works on the body, mind, and the spirit. So they don't just see it's physical; they see different things. And so Carol, my therapist, was talking to me one day, working on my body, and she said, "Sherry, you need to look at age 13." And I immediately shut down, put my walls up, and so she would just keep working on me. And when my time was up, I got up and left the table and left the clinic, and I got this stomach pain. And I thought, well, it's just because I'm hungry. I went to go eat, and I couldn't eat. And then I thought, well, maybe my stomach hurts me so much that I need to go throw up. I went to the bathroom, I couldn't throw up. So I came back, and I was in such misery. I ended up going back to the clinic. When I walked in and saw Carol, she just had this smile on her face. And I said, this isn't funny. It's not funny, Carol. Well, it is. It's your age 13 saying that you need to work on it. Well, I really didn't have, I guess I had a choice. I had a choice. I could continue in pain or I could try this. And so at the point in time, I said, I'll try this because what I have to lose. In about 5 minutes, the pain was gone. And all I did was, deal with emotion at age 13. That was all I did. So that was.
That's a pretty strong indication.
So that was the point that I go, maybe I should start working on this emotion stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's when I really started working on emotions, letting them go and dealing with them and understanding the power they held. And as I let more and more go, the healthier I
So how do you feel now about that? How do you feel now about letting your emotions flow?
I'm better. I can because that's why I can cry. I feel I'm allowed to feel more love in my body and more happiness, because if you are locking out emotions, you're also not letting good emotions in. So I think about that when I was locking everything out. So now I feel really great about if I feel something, I try to feel it. So I let it come into me. Just feel it. And usually what happens is
Yeah.
I let it feel, it just lessens, it dissipates, it leaves. It doesn't onto me as much. I also do some tapping, so I do some EFT, emotional freedom technique stuff.
Oh yeah, that's very powerful.
So I do some of that, and there's something called Ho'oponopono that I also do. So there's several techniques that I do. I don't, if I feel a negative emotion,
Yeah.
I don't hold on to it anymore. I really do it.
Anything in particular that you can recommend for us?
Well, meditation is always a great thing to do. It keeps you aware of what you're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
EFT
Mm-hmm.
tapping is a great thing. Ho'oponopono is really good. Um, Anytime that you just are aware, if you feel something and just say, okay, I'm just accepting this right now, and you don't fight it, just let it come. I feel sadness, I'm going to let sadness come to me. Just sit and feel it. A lot of times,
Yeah, exactly.
it's the,
So this basketball time was a really happy time in your life, and I find it very ironic that this was also the time that you were feeling all of this pain and discovering this whole new world of emotion.
yeah, I think that having
So
the chronic pain helped me, though, identify with so many different things. It helped me teach my
yeah,
life life lessons. They were so valuable to them. It made me such a better person. I have absolutely no anger about chronic pain at all. It was the nudge from the universe to make me a better person. And I learned a lesson, and so I'm grateful for for that opportunity that I had, and for the power that it gave to me to instill into these young women.
well, and speaking about those life lessons, Sherry, I want you to talk a little bit about your book and basically with what your advice is for especially women who are entering that kind of that third stage of their lives, and they're looking back at their life experiences, which for many of us is mixed. But in your case, it is mixed to an incredible degree with incredible highs and incredible lows. And so you want to talk a little bit about your book and how you turn these life experiences around to and those life lessons into a letting go process and a really positive message.
Well, this is a small book that I've written. I'm in the process right now of writing a much longer book. And the longer book is going to be, I think, a really great book in terms of unleashing the winner within you. And so it'll be
I'm sorry, say that again. What is it going to be?
unleashing the winner within you. So talk
Okay.
about how to access those things that we all have. We all have a winner within us. Sometimes it's just we haven't let it come out yet. So this is the Creating Success book is just a book about master your thoughts, how our limiting thoughts control us, our subconscious mind controls us, how we can get to those thoughts, how we can change those thoughts. That we do have that power. That a lot of times we think that our thoughts are thinking us, and they are because we allow them to. We can think our thoughts. So that's what this book is about: is how to do that, how to actually master the thoughts that we've always allowed to control us. And it's just when you ask about what can people do in their life right now, well, first of all, is to know that you can be your master. That you are a creator. You create what you desire. And it's the biggest thing
Yep.
to learn is that we get to do that. We don't have to just take what comes. We get to mold what comes to us.
Absolutely. Um, when is your book going to come out, do you think?
Well, I am working diligently on it. I have.
Okay.
I really have this goal of, and it's March 24th is when I want to be done with it. Then, of course, I have to get it.
Oh, so you really are almost at the end.
Yeah.
Well, we'll look forward to that.
But it won't be. I mean, at that point, I have to. That's the writing part. Then I have to edit it, and then make sure that 2 or 3 people read it to make sure that it's all edited properly and then publish it. So I'm hoping within 3 months that will be something. 3 to 4 months that will be something out, and then I can. It's going to be kind of a launching pad.
Well, we'll look forward to it, and maybe we'll have you back on again, and we can talk just about your book.
Thank you.
So, we're going to have to end in another minute or so, but I want to make sure that you talk a little bit. Okay, so your book is next. What else is next for you? What do you want to do with the rest of your life, Sherry?
I have a huge desire to help people. So many people, take the long road like I did, and you don't have to. If you're willing to learn from everybody else's experience, if there's so many books that I read, so many people that helped me get through my stuff. And I want to do the same thing for other people. I want to write books. I want to speak. I want to be out there so that I can help people. They can hear my message. I want to help personal coaching. I do some personal coaching. I help people through their limiting beliefs.
So while we're talking about this, I'm going to put up your contact information here. Go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
I do personal coaching to help them find the winner. What are their roadblocks and how to get through those blocks. But, basically, I just want to teach the win philosophy and help people. They don't need to be sad, and they don't need to be depressed, and they don't need to have chronic pain. They can get through all of that, and they can live their dreams.
Yeah.
Live their dreams, and I want people to know that they can live their dreams. They don't have to settle. They don't have to believe what somebody else tells them. You can do what you want, and that's such a huge thing to understand. Is that, if I would have accepted what the doctors told me, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. And we have that power in our mind to create. That's so important for people.
Absolutely. And the striking thing for me in all that you have told us is that you really have been unaccepting of things happening to you, that you really are much more accepting of making things happen.
Yes.
And as a result, you've got this win philosophy that really has made a winner out of you in so many ways, not just in your achievements, as you said at the beginning of this telesummit, but also with your own strength of character and your own ability to overcome great obstacles.
Right. And the biggest thing is people know that anybody can do this. It wasn't like I wasn't gifted. It was really just a willingness to learn. Everybody can learn. Everybody can do that. It's not a special gift. So everybody has the opportunity to grow, to evolve, and to live their dreams.
Absolutely. Well, I'm sure I speak for many of us in saying that we look forward to your book, and your message has been such an uplifting and inspirational one. And I really appreciate you being a guest on my telesummit. I always end with this contact information for me. If you would like to contact me about Sherry or about anything else, I am a life transitions and caregiver coach. And the interesting thing is that I really do think that a teen coach is very much a caregiver coach. And that has come out loud and clear, Sherry, with your messages today. So, of course, and thank you so much for sharing so many wonderful messages with us today. So I do want to open up the floor and see if anybody has any questions or any comments that they'd like to make before we close. I know we're a few minutes over. I tend to do that because I really get so entranced with my speakers. But if you have any questions, let me give you excuse me, a minute or so to post this in the chat room. And then I can let Sherry know if there is anything that anybody wants to know in addition to this very informative, very inspirational telesummit. Okay, well, I don't see any comments, Sherry, so I think that we will close the program. Again, thank you so much, and I'm serious. I would love to have you back to talk about your book because I think there's a lot of really valuable messages, and I would love to help promote it.
Thank you. I appreciate it, and I'll see you then. We'll keep in contact.
All right, sounds good. Well, I'm going to say goodbye for now to everybody. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next month.